What's up, everybody? Hope you guys have been doing well. This is going to be the 2022 season review, so let's get right into it. All right, so basically, this is going to be just me kind of talking through some of the things that happened this season. I want to talk through a lot of the items that really, were big things for us during the season. So kind of give an overview and then kind of go through some of the events that happened. We'll probably watch some of our game footage, and then we will, talk through practice planning, what worked, what didn't, why this season was better than all of the other seasons, and a bunch of things of that nature. But so it should be cool. I'm excited. If you have any questions, let me know. I don't know how long we're going to do it because I want to go play with my new toy. I got a drone, and so I'm going to go do a trick video on a little mesa that's over that way. And so I'm going to take my one wheel and do a little fun drone video. I should have some other really cool videos coming out soon. We explored a lot of cool new topics for this season, and it'll be fun to get into some actual videos once we get there. But so as we go through this, if you have any questions, comments, anything like that, feel free to address them. And the better the comments are, probably the longer we'll go. But so first things first, the reason there hasn't been any videos is because I needed to catch up on sleep. So the whole 4 a.m. thing every day was great until we started having later games. But once we had later games and I'm getting home at 10, up at 4 wasn't really an option to consistently do that and be, a dad that's not yelling and doing all that. So that's why that happened. No apologies there, because I don't think an apology is necessary for sleep. But so let's just get into the season. First things first. I coached at Cherokee Trail High School. I'm an assistant coach, or was an assistant coach there. Coach Calhoun, who's the head coach, and I are both leaving. It's just time to do something new. I'm having a kid in September, and with 3 kids, a half-hour drive to practice every day doesn't really work for mom. So that's happening. But so this was my 4th season there. We had some great players, some players who had come in as freshmen when I originally got there. And the coach who left talked about those players, the players that we had, as like a savior class. And they really were. We had some players who were 4-year starters on varsity. They were excellent players, excellent kids. And to watch their maturation and their development through those 4 years was absolutely incredible. And those kids are why we were more successful than we had been in past seasons this year. So I've got to get a couple things out of the way in terms of this season and kind of what happened. So first off, we hadn't had a winning season, I think, in like 7 years or 10 years. It was a long time since they'd made the playoffs before. I think we figured out that it was 10. But when this season ended, we were 10-7. We beat a team that we hadn't beaten before in 10 years in Arapahoe, who actually ended up being the eventual state champions. And so that was huge for us because coming from Cherokee Trail in our league just recalibrated and we got all these new teams and old teams. Now there's a bunch of different things. But so within our league, I'm pretty sure 7 of the 8 teams made the playoffs. Now, this season's playoffs were different because they expanded the field. But even though they expanded the field, we were still in the top 16 teams. So we would have made the playoffs last year without the expanded field as well. And I want to say that of the 8 teams in our league, 7 of them made the playoffs. We're in a great league. Tons of great teams. We got Creek, Kent, Grandview, East, CA, tons of great teams. And actually, Arapahoe ended up winning state, which was amazing. So first off, I want to give kudos out to the Arapahoe team because coached by Logan Bobzine, he's a great dude. He's what I heard him yelling was like, as they'd get into their offensive end, he's like, best shot. And he'd direct them to dodge from certain places if the natural way that they were running their offense, if they weren't trying to attack the goal from specific spots, he would kind of direct them to try to start attacking from specific places. But the way that they played after we beat them in overtime, I mean, they beat the first and second teams in the state to end the season. And then they beat, I don't remember who they beat in the first round, but then they beat us and then Valor and then Pooter Valley in the semifinal, who beat Creek, and then they beat Mountain Vista in the final, which was definitely a really fun game to watch. But the reason that they were so good was because they had all of these playmakers who were able to play in positions, run their two-man games in a lot of different areas, and they just made great decisions, right? So at the end of the day, it was all about having great players who make great decisions. And when they played us, they did that for the majority of the game, and then we threw a zone in that they weren't prepared for because I don't think we'd shown it against anybody else. And then in the second half, I want to say the fourth quarter, we were down by 3, scored 3 quick goals, went into overtime, and then won on this play. Let's see if I'll show you. We won on this play. So basically it was one of our really good playmakers got a shorty on the wing, tried to dodge underneath, drew a slide, tried to go through 2. And so, he has full range to kind of do that when he sees the availability. Checks the ball out of his stick, falls to us in front of the goal, and we score, right? So just like overtime, that's when, some of the craziness happens. And then, our guys, this is the first time I think we had ever beaten Arapahoe. So this was a huge victory for us. But so that I would say is probably the highlight of our season. Obviously having a winning season was excellent, but some of the perspectives or trying to think through all the things I want to talk about so I don't ramble on certain ones. But having a team that, over the years had a really difficult time like everyone's did, right? So their freshman year or the seniors, as I talk, I'll probably talk from the perspective of the seniors because I was a freshman. I was new to this team when they were freshmen. But so the first year, we had a pretty good season. It wasn't the best season. And then the second year got canceled because of COVID, and that was awful. And then their junior year, we had 10 games. We only played a league schedule, didn't make the playoffs. And finally this season, they kind of answered some of the calls to do as well as their skill level had been, and it was great. And so from the perspective of them overcoming, that was all the players, right? They did that. And their ability to connect with each other and become a better team was all due to them. And so I'm very proud of them and how they played. Now, I've got a couple of things to go through as far as what I learned this season and some of the things that I liked, some of the things that I didn't like. And I'm not kind of going to do, I was thinking about doing like a how the year went from like the first day of practice, which Coach and I were not allowed to be at because of an incident that happened the week before where it was just too cold. And I was going to do like, game by game, but I think more than that, I'm just going to go over some of the things that I really noticed. Or, I think the game by game has its merits too, so who knows. So one of the things that we really focused on this year because of the players that we had was a lot less orchestration, a lot more freelance. So a couple of things we implemented. First was the 21-12 offense, and we ran mostly out of a 12-12 to start, so an open set to start with alley dodges and clear throughs, and then we would cut one of the attackmen to the middle and drop the other 2 to X on the initiating dodges against the shorties. We allowed inverts, so middies could go to X anytime the rotation of the defense left one of our attackmen who could beat their short stick matchup. They had free reign to initiate from basically wherever they wanted because of movement rules that we had put in place. So all of the 2-man game ideas from the perimeter, whether you're going to fade, if you're going to overlap, if you're going to clear through, if you're going to cut the middle, how it would work on the backside depending on who was there, understanding the ideas of spacing. That's what we really relied upon, and that's where they were best. We had our set pieces and things too, so from an offensive standpoint, that's what we did. From a transition offensive standpoint, we ran, your classic L break. We would rotate to kind of more of a flat break if they were coming straight down the middle, but it wasn't something that we were going to do just flat break at one point, but their natural tendencies put them in an L, and so that worked a lot better because they had trained that a lot more as they had played growing up, so we just stuck with that. And then, let's see, slow break offense, we ran the Carolina slow break offense that they ran in 2016 when they won the national title, which basically is swing the ball through to X. You're going to have a pick at X that's going to drive you to your opposite hands. Then both players are going to kind of reverse directions and then fish hook up top above the goal. And we had a couple. Let's see if I can find one of those goals and show you. I think this was it. So basically in transition, as the ball goes to X, I've got a video explaining this whole thing too. So in transition, a lot of times teams will keep their middies high up top here. And so we can attack this space. Now, easy way to attack that is just dodge, clear through, follow, right? Dodge, draw, slide, feed the crease, and play. This is another one where the whole objective of this is really just to maintain the ball at the deepest part of the field while we get our subs on. That's the main thing. So if nothing happens here, we don't really care. Now our guys are subbed, and now we're, dodging within the concepts of the 21-12 offense that we ran. Now, so as this pick goes through, he goes one way, rolls back, this player comes up over, and now he fish hooks. And if it's there, cool. If not, he'll just throw it back up top. But it's a nice little play in transition that works really well. Now, this game was our third game of the season. We wanted to have a game before we went to Utah, but we didn't end up doing that. But so we actually ended up playing Corner Canyon first, which was a good game. And we had them on the ropes pretty good, but then in the third quarter, we just didn't play as well as we had, and they pulled away, which, it was great to play them. And then we played Alta, which was cool. Alta, not sure how they pronounce it in Utah, but played Alta. That was a good game. We were pretty dominant that game. We were playing with a lot of different ideas in terms of set pieces and things that we may have wanted to run at that point in time. And, I want to say the things that we really learned out in Utah were, one was Corner Canyon ran this man down, a 5-man press, and it killed us, right? So our guys were very used to not needing to play like they could play in man up, but they got to sit there and they got to look, right? So a lot of the stuff that I like to run on man up is, a 3-3 where, maybe you'll run some rotations here, some rotations there. Maybe we'll start in a open set and rotate into a 3-3, which is actually what we ended up doing later. But our man up ended up getting designed directly to our players, right? So once we got totally, whacked by their man down, we then went into a play that our guys called Pepper Jack, which was essentially like 5 or 6 looks in succession that put us into a 3-3, and then they were just allowed to play out of. And once the players recognized where the good looks were, it worked really well. We hit a lot of we were pretty good man up through the later parts of the season once they really got it down. But, we didn't just run the read it within a 3-3. So that was a really cool thing to have learned, was that press. And so we actually ended up putting that in later in the season, and it worked really, really well. Let's see if I can find I'm going to see if I can find one of the clips of us running it, because it was really nice. Here we go. Let's see. Should be back there now. Okay, so this is us on defense, and I don't know if they might score here. I'm actually not sure. I think they do score here, actually. But so, oh no, we turn it over. But so basically in man up, if you've got kids who are just thinking that they're just going to be able to throw the ball around, and you press the adjacents and the player with the ball, you're not going to have to like you can really mess with what they do. And the key is to make sure that the adjacents get pressed so that then they have to look for skip passes. And then a lot of times they'll throw it through. Here was another rep of it. But so that was another thing that we kind of toyed with and actually ended up working really well. But so as he goes to press, as long as everybody's on the same page, you're good, right? But if guys start to not know when and where they need to press, it can be really bad, because then, like, so there he threw it away. You end up with, 3 guys who are pressing, 2 guys who are not. So you give up a really easy, you have a really easy pass and then really easy goals because everyone's not on the same page. Now, so that was another thing that we learned this year. I'm going to go into kind of I'll stay with exactly kind of what we ran, and then we'll go into more of the like practices and things of that nature. So the big thing for me, considering kind of how I like to be more of a tactician in terms of like where I place players, I think that my ego says that my ability to tell them where to be and kind of how to play will do it is just such a fallacy. It's just an ego trip, right? And that's me to a T. I mean, obviously you can see, I feel that the lacrosse knowledge that I've learned over the years, I feel like I have the ability to share it, and that, hopefully it'll help people who, are trying to learn how to coach and everything. But at the end of the day, all that stuff doesn't always work. And you can't just tell them to do it. They have to be players first. And so that's where, a lot of times you can put them into, you almost have to start with that tactician mindset where as they're younger, they know what they have to do in certain places to create the situations that are going to give them the looks that are going to come to them later. But at the varsity level, they already have that. So it was these players, they were really good at kind of like seeing their own looks and generating their own motions and understanding how, once we have our spacing, all of that other stuff is just going to come with us. And we're going to be able to find the looks that come to us rather than the looks that coach is trying to design. Now, along with that, I will say the Denver set play from the end line, that worked like a charm this year, right? We had the guys to do it. Everyone knew their spots. Everyone was there. We actually designed another set piece that was the reverse of that, where we would come off of the wing, throw it up top, and then skip it through. I want to say we tried to run it against Arapahoe, but in the playoffs, when we lost to them by 3. But when we did it, what Arapahoe did really well is whenever I would call something, they would basically lock everyone. So we hit Denver first, and then we hit another play called Khonshu, which I've got a video on as well. But once that happened, if I was calling for anything, their D knew to like lock off on guys, and it didn't really work. Like nothing worked. And so their ability, and this is the other thing with all of the set pieces that we ran, every single set piece we ran put them in the same positions they would be in within some form of the offense so that then they could just play. The other thing is they all had freedom, right? But since they'd played so long together, they had the ability to like, what's the word? They had the ability to just read and react and play rather than kind of think about where to be. It was really cool. So I'll talk a little bit more about how we kind of developed that. And so before I get into the kind of practice concepts and kind of what we did and what worked a lot better than my previous years was, we beat Arapahoe, which was awesome. And it was a total come from behind victory. And one of the things I learned in that game was more of the like not to be hyped. Like stay on an even keel as you're going through the game. Everything doesn't have to be hyped and like really, really exciting to do your best. Like your best is just to go out and execute. But you don't, like, you have hype guys who are in the locker room wanting to, woo and all that. Like, yeah, get up, like everyone loud and chirping at people. Like, what's the one that everyone, yeah, white or whatever. Like everyone does that. But for a lot of guys, that's not what they need. They need to be calm. They need to be ready to execute what they're doing. They don't need any distractions in that. And so one of the things that we kind of relied upon in those big games was like, just do what you need to do to be in the mindset to execute, right? If you need to be calm and focused, be calm and focused. If you need to be, kind of exuberant and up and down, be that. We also had a great bench too, which was awesome. And the thing that really kind of one of the things that was interesting was we lost a game to Grandview by a lot. Kind of weird. We lost 21-12, which I thought was kind of funny, just considering the 21-12 offense. It was just, kind of poetic, you could say, because I used to coach at Grandview. And the thing about that game was that we made so many stupid mistakes because guys were just trying to do too much, and we'd hyped them up so much, and we put so much pressure on them. But throughout the season, they were better when there wasn't as much pressure, right? Like, they had pressure moments, and a lot of times what we had to do was calm them down. Now, other teams, you might have to really lift them up, but for these guys, it was really more about letting the moment come to them way more than it was about kind of hyping them up for the moment. Now, certain players were different. Certain players wanted it. Certain players didn't. And as a team, we did really well to help that for each player. But it was interesting to kind of see what we called the creek mystique when I was playing. So when I played at Smoky Hill, our coaches called it the creek mystique, which was, Cherry Creek's a really good team, and sometimes you'd beat yourself before you even entered the game. Now, that was the other thing about this team. I feel that this team could have beaten anybody in the state. Just the talent-wise, we'd have to play a pretty mistake-free game like we did against Arapahoe in the later stages of that game, but the talent was there. Everyone's coached a team where you knew you were out of your league, right? For me, it was coaching Ridgeview and going to play Valor, right? The Ridgeview kids had held sticks for 2.5 months, and the Valor kids had been playing forever. So there was a big difference there. But for these games, these guys, our guys could play. It was great. Very fun and exciting to watch them develop and to kind of have that. But that Creek mystique wasn't there as much this year as it had been in past years. But then against Grandview, the mistakes we made were so out of character for what they had done previously, and then after that you could kind of tell it was about the mentality of trying to win that game, because we share a road with Grandview, and we have a traveling trophy, which I think CT, I don't think CT's ever actually had it. But so, because it was started 2 years before I was at Grandview, and now it's been, I think, Grandview for the past 8 years. So 10 years, Grandview's had that trophy. But so that game just totally psyched us out. It would have been nice to play them a little bit later, maybe even after we beat Grandview, to see if we could have had that. But that's neither here nor there. So last thing I'm going to talk about in terms of another thing that we ran that worked well was we ran a new zone that'll have a video coming out with soon. And it's a zone where you're actually funneling to the middle, and it's a string from the middle. So you've got 2 poles in the middle, and they go to X and then back out, and you have some other interesting rotations. And that was probably one of the biggest parts about how we beat Arapahoe, because we utilized that zone. I think I might have mentioned that earlier. So now I want to talk a little bit about practices. And so once again, if you have any questions or you want to say anything, let me know. I think once I end this practice portion, I think I'm going to go on my ride and play with my drone. But if you have any questions, I'm definitely cool to sit and talk a bit more. But so practices. First thing is you're going to play how you practice. Everyone's always said it. Everything's there. But that goes down to all the rules you put in every single drill that you have, right? So when I was at Grandview, and Jamie, the head coach, who I coached under for the last couple years, I was always so impressed with how his players got to hands, right? And it's because he says it 1,000 times a practice, right? When we go into 6-on-6 or in any drill, he says it 100 times. And so when I was at Grandview and we weren't doing that, it was that's one of their rules. It's something that they have to do. And if you not even encourage, if you expect them to do it and you hold them to that standard, they're going to do it. And so it's been great coaching with Jamie and Unk and Dan and everybody at CT, but all of the drills you do have to have the element of what you want to do. So for us, in our motion offense, we really wanted to play as freely as possible. And the one drill that helped us more than anything in that was what we call Sea Wolves, which is what Coach Spallina introduced at LaxCon this year. So if you have your US Lacrosse membership, you can go watch his video, his presentation, and essentially it is, you know, you can make it 4-on-3, 3-on-2, 2-on-1, 5-on-4. You can build it however you want, but basically you have stations, and the stations are numbered, and everybody has a ball. So all 4 players are going to have a ball. Now, we ran it 4-on-3 for the majority of this season. That was what we ran most. And so as I would say numbers. First number keeps the ball, second 2 leave it, and then 2 defensemen will come in every time. So you end up having really fast-paced decisions where it's not just the same thing happening over and over and over again, right? So we'd say, you know, the first one would be like 2-1-4, and then it'd be 4-3-1. And so the defense has to get in and then play that really quickly and really efficiently. I'll have a video on that too. I might clear it with Coach first, but it allows them to be in. So you think about lacrosse and you think about the majority of sports, flow sports. As the game is happening, you're just thrust into specific situations, right? So you're sitting there, say you're a defenseman and the ball's in your offensive end. Okay, well, in the next second, the ball could be coming your way. It could be 1 player, it could be 3 players, could be, you don't know what's going to come at you. But the key is you got to be able to read it, respond to it, and make things happen. But so from the defensive perspective, that's what you're doing in that drill. Every time a new thing comes in, you don't know what's coming, and so you have to read, react, and make things happen. Offensively, it puts you in the same situation. You're evaluating where the ball's coming from, where are you, how are you going to get involved in the play, and because it's so fast-paced and it's not like, so there's value to like 4-on-3s where players kind of stand and they learn to see skip lanes and they learn how to move the ball quickly and defense learns how to rotate and what all that is. That's great, and it works really well. But in the game, it's so much more random, and this drill, we ran it, I think, every single day. And our players, as they played freely, were way better. Even the defensemen were better because of how they had to read and react to specific scenarios. They understood, you know, as they got the ball, where the openings were going to be. And it really helped us just play more efficiently. Now, granted, these players were better, right? Like, our players were the best players we've had in as long as I've been at CT, right? Because it's kind of the same set of players who were, I mean, they were starters one year, but then like we just had depth. I don't think we didn't have too much depth, but in terms of like, we didn't have Loyola Blakefield depth or Calvert Hall depth, but we had players everywhere that could play very well, and they connected very well. But the other thing, so, and this is funny because I'm going to go the exact opposite direction on that. So that one's just a free play thing where you gotta incorporate the situation and play. Now, line drills. Ran it every day. Loved it. It was the best drill we ran. Like, so every day they'd warm up, then they'd run line drills. Now, we do a ton of different things, and lines weren't super long, but the players got to really fine-tune their release. They weren't thinking so much about making moves, keeping their stick. Like, so if you watch like the spike drill or star drill, or, I mean, star drill is fine because you're doing the same thing. It's just star drill is a line drill. It's just, you don't throw to the same place that you pass to, right? But if you get into like spike drill and, you know, I think it was, I don't remember what I called it, but then you're looking at like a catch, turn away, catch and split, and all these different skills, where what I really want them doing for the first bit of practice is just honing in on how their stick is releasing, and we'll go righty inside, lefty inside, righty outside, or, you know, we'd go through a whole progression. Then we could do throwback line drills to get, you know, how we're going to step away when we're dodging, one up, one down, which is just ground ball to pass it. And so many people kind of don't see an inherent value to that, when I think it's probably one of the most valuable things we did all year. Because so to say that again, the next thing is keep away, right? Many of you who are watching this video have probably seen my 5-on-4 continuous keep away drill, where you can just kind of let them go and they get to just play this game for, you know, 10 minutes or 7 minutes in practice. But that keep away drill is tough because, you know, they have to read, react. They got to play defense. You know, they got to move. It's not they're not honing in on how their stick is releasing. And so another video I'm going to have coming out here soon, depending on when I get to it, is just a, how to get more accurate video for players who are at home. And the first thing players got to do is that Swat To Fly drill, right? Where they're standing very close to the goal and they're just hitting the corner over and over. And so they're going to extend back and they're going to hit that corner and they're just going to see what their stick is doing for the day. And they're going to hone in on it and they're going to do it lefty. And so as you're starting to hit targets that are close to you and you see how that release is coming, as you back up, you're going to be more accurate and more consistent as you do that. That's what you're doing in line drills. And so line drills were great for us this year. We added in some weird little varieties too, as we would do line drills, then throwback line drills, and then I think we did plus for a little while where we did the give and goes, where you essentially you'd be in one of 4 lines and you'd pop out, you'd catch the ball, you'd throw it to the guy next in your line, you'd get the ball back, and then you'd throw it on to the next line. That one was pretty good, but I think if you're going to put players in patterns, you can do that in terms of like a skeleton shooting drill to teach them the patterns, like a 3VO or something like that. But ultimately, having them really dial in on their line drills, it was great for our guys. Now, if you have guys who need to recognize that playmaking aspect and you don't really, it's all about what you see value for your guys. This is just something that worked well for us. Trying to think about any other things in practice. So once that was over, then we went into that randomized thing with that Seawolves drill. We did a lot of 4-on-3 Carolina drill, which is like basically from the midfield of 4-on-3 where everyone's up there. So you have to draw, right? Defensively, they want to get in. Offensively, you want to draw, make them play you, move the ball, and just do it in a lot of different ways, right? Sometimes we would set them all around the field. Sometimes we would put them at the midline. Sometimes we put them at X. And we didn't do as much shooting as I would have liked. I definitely would have liked to do more shooting and shooting in specific spots. But once we got rolling into the season, we were fine-tuning and playing and kind of making sure the guys were connecting within their spots. So that was another thing about that 21-12 offense, was as they were playing, like, whoever had the matchup that game knew what they had to do. They knew where they needed to go. They knew where the other two were. They knew how to kind of play with each other. And one of the things that created was, so in my ideal world, my ego world of lacrosse, I want to have 2 lines that I can switch in and out consistently, right? I don't necessarily want to have an offensive line and a defensive line. If I could have 2 sets of 2D middies, so 4 two-way players, I would love to keep 2 players on to go play defense, have them go back to offense, and then sub them out, right? But that doesn't always work. You can have the D-mids go, but a lot of times this year, we would have our 2-ways go back to play defense. Maybe we would get scored on and we wouldn't get the ball back for a bit. So that second line of middies who was expecting to go didn't get as many reps as they needed, right? Because our ones were rested, and if we're going to be in a game, we're going to go with our ones for the majority of the time. And so I think as I move through further, obviously depending on the group that I end up coaching in this way next, I think I'm going to kind of make it express that if you're in that top 6, you're the go-tos, right? In this varsity competitive element. If we're in like a youth, more so a rec element, everyone's playing and we'll just rotate through the lines. But with this, I think that's going to be more of the expectation. Like, so before games, you'll see like the 10 starting players get together in a circle and they kind of like communicate before they get in. But then you have your other players who are coming in certain spots, and we had guys who filled their roles and like did really, really well. And a lot of those guys, so we had one player who could have probably been one of our good 2-ways, and he was like, "Coach, I want to be on the field more. Like, I'm going to be a D-mid." And he killed it for us. Like, he was on wings of faceoffs. He was a great D-mid. He could clear the ball really well, and he kind of like locked in on that. And so now, as he moves into his junior season, he's going to be lights out. Like, and we had great attitudes this year. That was great too. So that's kind of how we did practices, things like that. I got to shout out Coach Dan. He took our face-off guys every day, and he was doing, drills from Gurenlian and all. He'd learned from Nardella, talked to Nardella, and like our guys were really good. They had a lot of great counters. Like, they worked their butts off with Coach Dan, and he did a tremendous job with the face-off guys too. So that was another element of kind of our practices. But so now to end, because I forgot that I wanted to add this too, I just wanted to talk about the difference between club and like high school. So high school is awesome because you get to see the players every day, right? And so for club, you get this, amalgam of players, this group who's from all over the place, all are running different offenses, defenses, things of that nature. And they all come together to play in kind of more of a showcasey thing. And teams will run whatever offenses they want. And the majority of the offenses are well-run motion type offenses, but oftentimes certain players are going to obviously get the nod in the bigger games, and they're going to want to run. They're going to want to get really good at running one specific thing because they don't have as much time, right? But so the ability to like really grow with a team, that's what's awesome about high school. And so in terms of club, it's just a bit different, and the players are going to learn to play a little bit more, I think, for club. But as far as coaching goes, like club practice planning is a lot more, it's not kind of as, I don't know if I'd say it doesn't need to be so as detailed, but like it's a lot more kind of play. I don't know why I think of it so differently. You're going to get a set of kids, but it's not as daily, right? So like practice planning was awesome. Like every day you sit down, okay, what do we need to work on? Where are we? You communicate with the offensive coaches, the defensive coaches, the face-off coaches. What do you need? What can we get you? And then you write your plan, and it's all systematized. Whereas club, at least for me, we'll have a general concept and we'll kind of reinforce that concept. But once the players start to play, there's, you have 2 practices before you start your first summer tournament. And over the course of the summer, players will draw and they'll get together. But overall, it's just a whole different animal. I really like the high school element much better than I like the club element, which we're not even running club this summer. So it'll be a good time for me to get some good work done. I'm actually kind of excited about being able to branch out a little bit, get a few videos done. I've got tons of video that I just need to process and make into teaching videos, and big things are definitely coming. I'm not going to get into specifics because I want to start getting into it, and who knows what September is going to bring, because September my daughter will be born, and so then it'll be 3 verse 2 in the house, and that's going to just be crazy. But so thanks for everyone who tuned in. I'm going to go have some fun, ride a one wheel, have it follow me on the drone. I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know if you guys have any comments, questions, anything like that. And I hope you guys have a good one, and I'll talk to you guys soon. See ya.